What up, y'all? It's the Cannibal. We just had UFC Denver go down yesterday. This video is going to be my reaction, my breakdown to the fights that went down. Starting off, we had the main event, Rose Namajunas and Tracy Cortez. I want to start off, respects to Tracy Cortez, taking this fight on short notice, elevation, going from a 3-rounder to a 5-rounder. Looked like she was awful on the scale with having to cut her hair and everything. So props to her, she actually looked a lot better in the fight than I was expecting. Didn't really gas out in the later rounds like I had expected her to. So, you know, a lot of props there. Unfortunately, Rose was just better than her, which is really just kind of part of what I expected. The fight didn't go exactly how I thought it would. I did think Rose was going to get the finish early on, or kind of at all, at least, with how much I expected Tracy to gas. Although, so with Tracy not gassing, this was maybe the best performance I would have expected out of Rose. Pretty much in control of the fight the entire time. The only rounds you could really argue were Tracy's would be like the 4th and the 5th. But by that point, Rose had already so clearly won the first 3 that it kind of didn't really matter. Rose got a knockdown in the first round, which was pretty big. But other than that, Tracy looked like she was just, 2-3 steps behind the whole time. Not really able to make the best of reads, not really making the smartest IQ decisions in there. Going for an inside trip when she had 2 overhooks and Rose had double underhooks is just, it doesn't work like that. So, Tracy, this would definitely be a good experience for her. She's still got time in the sport. She's only 30, not too old. But I definitely would hope to see a lot more improvements by the next time she fights. This was a massive jump up in competition for her, so respects to her again. But good win for Rose. Looked like she needed to look like. I think one more win and she gets a title shot in this division, assuming all the stuff between Grasso and Shevchenko has been worked out by then. And yeah, not too bad of a fight, although definitely started to drag on, especially in that 3rd round. Was pretty slow, especially if you look at the striking numbers for it. It's pretty funny. Moving on, split decision between Muslim Salikov and Santiago Ponzinibbio. This was kind of a controversial decision. I saw a lot of people thinking Santiago should have gotten it. If you look on Verdict MMA, I believe every single round was scored for Ponzinibbio on Verdict, which is kind of crazy. I don't hate the Salikov decision. The fight was pretty boring, pretty slow. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of started to zone in and out of it as I was watching. But from what I did see, it really seemed like you could have kind of given this fight either way. I definitely thought that Muslim Salikov was landing the cleaner shots. It looked like Ponzi might have been, making Muslim's face a little redder and maybe busting him up a little bit more, but that was mostly in the 2nd round. When it came to the 1st and the 3rd, though, it looked like Muslim was definitely landing the better shots, had a little bit more success in those clinch and grappling situations, and just overall, had a slightly better performance. Yeah, I don't know. It was a pretty boring fight overall, so say what you will. I don't really mind this decision just because both these guys are sold. It doesn't really affect anything other than their resumes. Moving on, Gene Silva is a problem. This dude turning around like that, weight class up against Drew Dober, who, maybe not super high caliber, but staple of this lightweight division for a while. And Silva just essentially ran through him. I mean, Dober had his moments of success here and there throughout the 1st and the 2nd round mostly. But, I mean, Silva got that big cut on Dober early on. And by the time the 3rd round came, I mean, you really just had to stop that fight. I mean, if you're going to stop the Chasson Bueno Silva fight, you've got to stop this Dober Silva fight. Because that cut was gnarly. If you guys seen the pictures from today of Dober with his stitches and everything, it looks insane. And Gene Silva is still really young at 27 years old. This is electric way to start his UFC career, and I'm really excited to see where this guy goes. He could really, I'm seeing a lot of promising things. especially doing that to somebody like doing what he did to Charles Jourdain in his last fight. And the featherweight's supposed to be his main division. That means he's got that power regardless of these two weight classes. So he's going to be a problem. He's got good gas tank. He's got good power. I mean, to push the pace like he did in this fight on the short notice at elevation like that, absolutely insane. I'm really looking forward to what Gene Silva can do. I think, right now I definitely see him easily being a top 10 featherweight. We'll have to see more to see really where he stands, but that's my first impressions of him so far. It looks really promising. Moving along, Gabriel Bonfim and Angelusa. It's kind of a boring fight as well, I can't lie. It was a pretty solid back and forth the whole time. Interestingly enough, Lusa seemed to have more success in the grappling department than Bonfim did, while Bonfim was really clean in his striking, picked his shots very well, and just seemed to land with more emphasis. I can see why he got the decision here. Lusa, even when he was having success in the grappling, really never got any damage off or any submission attempts. It was mostly good control on the ground and like clinch control. But when it came to actually dealing any sort of damage, Bonfim just completely beat him in that regard. So, good decision. Solid victory for Bonfim, back in the win column. Not too impressed, but we'll see where he goes from here. The Bonfim brothers are still both pretty new into the UFC, so I'm curious to see where they go. Julian Rosa, Christian Rodriguez. This was a really good battle on the feet. The two guys were throwing good shots at each other. Julian Rosa in particular landing some gnarly boxing combos up top. Christian Rodriguez landed that head kick pretty early on. That was really it was a solid head kick. Landed really flush. Was surprised Rosa didn't get way more wobbled from it, but he survived through it really well. Julian was landing a lot of good front, the entirety of the bottom of his foot landing to Christian Rodriguez's face. Multiple front kicks like that, which were just really brutal to watch land on Christian Rodriguez. And eventually, Arosa caught a kick of Rodriguez's, and Rodriguez fell to the ground. At which point, Julian, with impressive speed, just completely wrapped up Christian in a body triangle. And I thought the fight was over there. Christian managed to survive it and get out and flip the position to get on top. However, as soon as he did that, Julian snatched up a guillotine, and that was it. And so, impressive performance from Julian Erosa, honestly. He came out swinging, he came out ready to fight, and he got that finish early on in the first round. Christian Rodriguez looked like he kind of just got beat up, really. I mean, he did really good when it came to the striking exchanges. It was pretty 50-50. However, he just wasn't ready for that grappling game of Julian Erosa, it seemed like, which was really surprising given Christian Rodriguez has seemed to be more of a grappler in the past. So I would have expected more from him in that regard, but regardless, good performance to Julian Erosa, good win, and I'm happy to see Christian Rodriguez lose. So, not even upset I got my pick wrong there. Moving along, Cody Brundage, Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Abdul was totally hitting him in the back of the head with a few of those shots and hitting those 12-6 elbows. As much as I think that rule is stupid. It is a rule for a reason. It is what it is. And, Cody, get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. You're going back to the amateurs. I think it's time to get this dude out of the UFC. There's no point in him staying here. I do want to say, if he didn't take the DQ, I do think that my pick would have been right and Abdul would have knocked him out. So I won't count it on my record or anything, but I just want to state that for the record. It looked like it was going in that direction. If the ref hadn't called it for back of the head shots, he would have called it for a TKO, no doubt. I do think Abdul, I don't know. Al Hassan really could have played that a bit smarter. He did seem, that really looked like a big inexperience thing. in that moment because there was just no way. He could have just taken a couple extra seconds before he took each shot, 1 extra second before each shot, and pick his moments a little bit better, land a little bit cleaner, because the side of Brundage's head, right where the ear was, and even the top of his head were wide open for a lot of those shots, but he was just taking whatever was like absolutely the most like obvious position that he could punch to, and that was the back of Brundage's head for the most part. So I don't have a problem with the ref intervening. I do think it was like a fair intervening because he was hitting him in the back of the head, but it's still a lackluster way for the fight to end, and just an awful performance from Cody Brundage even while it lasted. So even in no contest, this dude looks like a bum. I just have nothing else to say about this fight, really. Moving along, Charles Johnson, Joshua Van. This was a great fight. Awesome scrap. Joshua Van looked really good for a lot of it. So did Charles Johnson. This dude showed up really looking really good. The size difference when they were in the cage was gnarly. I did not expect that. I didn't see the face-offs. So when I saw the size difference between them when they were going toe-to-toe, I was really like taken aback. I feel like, if it wasn't for that as much, this would have been Joshua Van's win. I think he would have won the second and the third round and gotten the decision that way. But credit to Charles Johnson. The way he came out at the start of that third round was exactly what he needed to do. Just absolutely blitzed Joshua Van, knocked him to the ground, got that TKO. It was good. It was a good performance. Even in the second and first rounds, I think he won the first round, and that second round was damn close. Really a good back and forth fight. I know what I was saying about if you think Joshua Van's going to be anything, then you expect him to beat Charles Johnson. I don't think this necessarily takes away from Van's, the thoughts of him being able to rise up in this division. It is still a pretty shallow division, all things considered, in terms of how many people are in it. So he's still got, the chance to move up and improve. He's still very young. This was like his third fight in the UFC, I want to say, something like that. So, Joshua Van's still got a future, but Charles Johnson really just put it on him in this fight and he got the win. He did exactly what he needed to do. So good for him. Jasmine Jasudavicius, Fatima Klein. Pretty much just kind of went exactly how I thought it would. Jasmine Jasudavicius, staying on the outside with her striking, getting some success in the clinching and the grappling situations. Fatima Klein not really having much for her. It's really what it is. I don't really trust these undefeated, prospects debuting for the most part, and Jasmine Jasudavicius is a name that I recall for a reason. So, got my pick right there. Happy with that. Montel Jackson with a nasty 20-second knockout of Damon Blackshear. That was a crazy fight. Crazy knockout, I should say. Really didn't last long enough for me to have like a real much of an opinion of either guy. Other than, I guess, Blackshear just needs to improve his striking defense, because Montel just really hit him with like a solid jab kind of right at the beginning. Then there was like a moment where they like paused, looked at each other, and then just a straight 1-2 down the pipe, and it was lights out immediately. I'm not really sure. I know Montel Jackson hits hard, but it was really just like a perfect counter shot. So, great performance by Montel Jackson. You really can't ask for a better it really couldn't get more flawless than that. So good for him. Hopefully Damon Blackshear can come back and perform well, but I think this is probably right around here is probably going to be where Blackshear's ceiling is. He may break into like the top 15 to 13 spot at some point, but based off these last few performances, I don't think he's going to go much further than the top of the unranked in the UFC. Luana Santos getting that RNC over Maria Agapova. Good performance from her. Happened pretty quickly. She had quite a lot of success when it came to the striking, And when it came to the grappling, she essentially just completely dominated her. Had a few close moments when she had Agapova in her guard, and then eventually transitioned to the back, got the RNC. It was a good performance. Not much else to say. She did really well. This card turned out much better than expected. No doubt. A lot of finishes, a lot of really impressive and just entertaining performances. The Andre Petroski-Josh Fremd fight was not one of them. Petroski got the decision. Really spent most of it kind of just inside control for most of the time. That was like the entirety of the second round was just him inside control, keeping Josh Fremd on the ground. He did get an early knockdown in the first round, but after that, just side control for the rest of that round. Not much offense. When it was on the feet, Josh Fremd did seem to be having most of the success, you know, in this striking situations, going back and forth. But those never lasted very long, and I think Petroski went 3 for 3 on takedowns, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he went like 3 for 4 or something. But every time he got Fremd to the ground, Fremd did not get back up. He only needed 1 takedown per round, and he just held it every time. And you know, it is what it is. This fight was kind of a 50-50. I went with Josh Fremd, hoping he would have that success in the feet with the height and the reach, having a bit more experience against better competition. And it seemed to kind of be like that, but Petroski's strength, the elevation got to Josh Fremd. It is what it is. Finally, the opener of the cards, Evan Elder versus Darius Flower. This was also a really entertaining fight. Both guys came out looking very crisp, very clean, very sharp. Darius Flowers was doing a lot of like little showboating, talking to Evan Elders a lot, which I think came to bite him in the ass because he looked pretty gassed by the halfway point of that second round where Evan Elders ended up submitting him with an arm triangle choke. The grappling was somewhat back and forth before that point, but Evan Elders held on to the control for the most part. Eventually, Evan Elders had Darius Flowers on the ground. He kind of jumped into Flowers' guard, worked his way around in there until eventually he got himself that arm triangle choke. And a solid performance. Evan Elders, another young guy. I don't know. I think this might have been his UFC debut. I do think this fight was also short notice for somebody, probably Elder himself. So, good performance. You know, definitely makes a good little stamp to mark your entrance into the UFC, and started the card off pretty well. And, you know, overall, pretty solid event, you know, especially with how much we were shitting on it before the event started. The main event did kind of turn out to be a bit of a stinker like we expected, but a lot of the rest of the card panned out very well, especially the Silva-Dober fight. I think we all knew that was going to be a banger. And, yeah, really solid card, solid event, a lot of good finishes, a lot of solid performances, fun to watch. And, yeah, let's enjoy it, because next week may as well be a break week, and then we've got a really nice pay-per-view after that. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap up my breakdown and my reaction video. Thank you guys for watching. What do you think of the card? What do you think of some of these standout performances? And with that, stay violent.